This video is sponsored by Crimson Manifesto, Knuckles OX, and Jopi. Hello everyone, and welcome to the official 5-year anniversary of my channel. If you scroll all the way back far enough in my career, back to August 26th of 2018, you'll find my first and most clumsily made videos at the time. The first of which being my take on the scenario of Goku taking Raditz upon his offer to join the Saiyans. I won't be recapping here for the sake of time, but I have included links to the original story up till now in the iCard and description. So if you'd like to brave the older stuff and catch up, feel free to revisit that first video of mine when you do. Fair warning, the story is admittedly flawed, but regardless, I have some pride in it being my launching point, and I still think the story as a whole bears multiple strong moments of storytelling. I admittedly used to have lots of issue taking criticism with the story, but now looking back, I'm harder on it than anyone else probably. Hence my ability to poke fun at it and still try to get a good story out of it to end it off, because I think I can also notice issues better than most. And the number one issue in my opinion is that the story simply has too many competing ideas which could hold their own scenario extremely easily, if not all having multiple what-ifs within themselves just as prompts alone. If you break them down, those being, what if Turles was canon or turned good, what if the Dragon Ball Zero fan manga was canon, what if a bit of filler/games were canon with a reference to the video games featuring Princess Snake and Raditz getting together, what if all movies were canon pretty much, and, most obviously, what if Raditz survived or turned good. So noting that, as I try to bring the original run of this amalgamated concept to a satisfying close, I'm also letting you know to be on the lookout for my takes on some of these individual ideas that also deserve more focused explorations in the future. Kinda like my take on what if Pigaro was canon as a more focused take on that one specific filler character touched on in the first What If Relay. Both of those are also linked in the iCard and description for you to check out by the way. For now, make sure to do the usual YouTube stuff, grab a snack, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show, as it's finally time for the finale of What If Goku Joined Raditz, the Faux Tournament, Zuko's Rebellion, and the overstuffed finale.
Attention peons! Soon a new era shall befall this wretched universe. The era of Majin Buu. To celebrate this, I, Babidi, shall be hosting a grand tournament where the best of the best may battle it out to determine who is worthy of living to see the new age. To enter, one must only present themselves and any compatriots as well as innocent sacrifices to Buu's glory. The start of the dark tournament draws nigh, so prepare yourselves and cherish what little time you have left in your fragile illusion of peace.
This message is projected psychically across the galaxy to all the scum and denizens of the Demimond who might answer the call, with one particular rogue finding himself rather intrigued by the prospect of this so-called dark tournament, that being Bojack. Having recently escaped from North Kai's planet, the notorious space pirate is eager to crack some heads, and if this wizard's offering the venue, he ain't gonna refuse. The only question is where he can get himself a nice innocent sacrifice, though fortunately, here his navigator Bujin is able to provide an answer, pointing out the nearest inhabited world, a little boring mudball called Earth, with supposedly a few decent fighters. Perfect. Touching down in a secluded canyon, Bojack's crew do not even need to scan for power levels, as at the moment, 3 moderately strong ones are flared, clearly being in the midst of a battle. Following them to their source, the rogues find that the fighters are children, 2 of whom appear to be Saiyan, while the third is shockingly a Hair Clan member like themselves from the looks of it. No matter, if they're gonna grab them, they gotta grab them all, since they can't afford to raise alarms anyway. Pouncing on the brats just when they are beginning to tire from their petulant sparring, it is child's play to subdue them, and return to the ship, no one the wiser to their heinous deed. However, this is less a testament to their strength as it is to the fact that at the moment, Mount Pounzu and specifically the Sone clan find themselves with a different set of guests, those being the Supreme Kai and his attendant Capito. It seems they too have heard of this dark tournament, and have come to enlist the hero's help, being familiar with their work from their battles with the Code family and the Neo Demon King Piccolo. Always up for a fight, Goku, Raditz, and Turles are more than happy to partake, even if they are a bit iffy on the whole innocent sacrifice part, though Gohan is forbidden from joining them since he has school and isn't allowed to be pulled out for a silly universe-ending conflict. Figuring Vegeta would also be a good candidate, Goku gives Bulma a call, though it seems she has bigger things in her mind, having just received a notice that Trunks' capsule phone has been disconnected from service, meaning either he's been hurt badly enough to damage a phone that can survive Vegeta's training, or he's left Earth. And if he's in either of those positions, it's not a stretch to assume Goten and Zuko will be too. Furrowing his brow, Goku tries to sense their energies, quickly confirming that they're not on Earth anymore, and wherever they are, they're too weak to sense. Understandably, this worries Bulma, who snaps at her old friend and to her husband to find her son, while in his other ear the Saiyan hears Chi-Chi and Snake repeat this sentiment, just as forcefully. Brusquely, Kibito tries to return the topic to the threat of the Dark Tournament, though this is a rather poor choice, as in venomous tones, Chi-Chi informs the Kai that the biggest threat right now is her to whoever took her baby boy, and anyone who stands in her way of getting him back. In a conciliatory tone of his own, Shin suggests that what Kibito meant is they were likely taken as the entry fees, so to speak, for the Dark Tournament. Before coiling a little under the matriarch's glare, she hisses at him to explain. When Shin is done, Chi-Chi looks about ready to either pass out or explode, though before she can do either, Snake, who feels the same as her sister-in-law, states that if their sons are being taken to the tournament, then she'll make sure to get them there too. Briefly, Shin attempts to explain that they don't actually know where it's being held. Though eyes flashing with determination, Snake retorts that's because he's a good little Kai, with good little Kai sources of information, whereas she has spent long enough adjacent to Hell that she made a few shadier contacts, who might just be perfect for this sort of situation. To this end, she sets to work, using Goku as a transmitter to King Kai, who can in turn put her in contact with her friends in Hell. After a brief conversation, the former princess of Snake Way reveals the tournament is being held on planet Zune in 7 days, meaning they don't have a moment to lose. Agreeing with his wife, Raditz leads the charge by heading to Capsule Corp to get the ship ready while tasking Goku with dusting off their old space gear. Fiercely, Snake declares she's coming too, unbreakable resolve in her tone, and though Raditz wants to object, he can't deny that any ally with knowledge of the shady underworld they're stepping into will be a big help. And so it is that just under an hour later, Goku, Raditz, Vegeta, Snake, Shin, and Kibito are on board the Capsule Corp ship bound for planet Zune. It is only as they pass Jupiter that Raditz actually thinks to take a head count, realizing entirely too late that in the haste of the situation and the in-depth discussion about why villains kept hosting tournaments, as well as his worry over Zuko and the fate of the universe, they'd completely forgotten Turles. Meanwhile, the final Pure Saiyan sits back at Goku's house fuming as Chi-Chi and Launch try to praise him for being the mature one, remaining here on Earth to defend the planet, since who knows what could happen. Speaking of uncertainty, Goten, Trunks, and Zuko have just woken up from unconsciousness, finding themselves bound and collared with something that seems to be suppressing their ability to access Ki. In the gloomy hold of the ship, a pair of wicked eyes flash as Beto chuckles that it's about time those squirts woke up, before yelling for his captain to come say hello to their guests. Stomping into view out of the shadows, Bojack welcomes them all to his humble craft, and stating that they'll be here for the duration of their voyage to Zune, at which point he's afraid it'll be the end of the line for them. Or at the very least, it will be for 2 of them. He then turns his grin on Zuko, saying that he could be spared this fate though, if and he's willing to join his crew, since it was only right that the head agent stuck together, even if Zuko had weird-looking ears. Angrily, Trunks declares that even Zuko's not stupid enough to take that offer, but in a desire to be free, while also spiting his longtime bully and rival, Zuko accepts, much to the other boy's shock. Calling him a good lad, Beto cuts Zuko's bindings before removing his collar, while Bojack gives him the tour, excited to have what he perceives as a young head agent on the crew after so long. For the next few days, the captain does not like Zuko out of his sight, partially out of distrust, but mostly due to this fascination. For the most part, Zuko finds the Galaxy soldiers to be decent hosts, even if that Zangia lady with the cruel eyes kinda reminds him of his mom, often eating and sparring with them, since they made it clear they want him with them for something called the Dark Tournament. Finally, when he does get a bit of alone time, he sneaks back to see Goten and Trunks, checking in on them and bringing them some food, though always refusing their request to be freed, with him even getting some satisfaction in watching Trunks squirm every time he suggests he might let Bojack sacrifice him. Eventually, Zuko's dedication to the pirate life is tested when Bojack insists they pillage a passing freighter. Though he had told himself he was only doing this to be free long enough to make an escape plan, when the boarding begins, he feels his blood rush like never before, unleashing his full powers against their victims, and being praised for it in a way his parents had never done. He even wonders if this might have been how his dad felt back in the day. He feels good, seen, respected. After this, it becomes much harder to convince himself that this is a ruse, or even that he wants it to be, with him being the ones to suggest they take the freighter crew as sacrifices for the tournament, figuring he at least would like to help his cousin Goten weasel out of this dire fate. Unfortunately, this is less successful than he had hoped, with Bojack taking the prisoners and declaring that he'll still sell the other boys to the wizard hosting, since in their line of work it never hurts to pick up a bit of extra loot. Finally, the Hera crew arrive on planet Zune, where the creme de la creme of scum are all gathered, handing over their new freighter prisoners to be sacrificed. The newly dubbed Team Bojack are granted entry to the event, taking their place in the pits to await their opening fights. Up above, Bobbity watches all the fighters along with his guests, Hoyo Kanats, Garlic Jr. of the Makio Star, and Commander Sorbet of the now-defunct Frieza Force. As the current 4 biggest names of the galactic underworld, they have all gathered together to spectate and make exorbitant bets on the outcome of the fights. Not that it matters to Bobbity, as he has something far grander than money in mind. When the last sacrifice to Buu is made, Bobbity calls a start to the fights, while at the same moment, the Dragon Team sneak in, with the Saiyans and Snake knocking out 4 fighters and taking their places in the matches. Having run the gamut of the galaxy's worst, these early fights are nothing to the heroes, though they do come across a few interesting new faces, like a noble swordsman named Tapion, who is apparently only here to find a way to prevent the revival of a monster of his own, and a purple alien with a chilling resemblance to Frieza. Snake even manages to show that her training under Raditz has paid off, as she's able to take out Zangia, showing no mercy when she sees the woman seemingly guarding Zuko from leaving, though the real action begins when Bojack is paired up with Raditz. Furiously, the long-haired Saiyan orders the pirate to release his son and the other boys. Though giving a belly laugh, Bojack retorts that he can have the others if he wants to rescue them from the wizard's chambers, but Zuko is one of them, having joined of his own free will, so he stays. Rage only growing at this creep trying to come between him and his kid, Raditz responds with a punch to the pirate's jaw, now in Super Saiyan 2, though still, Bojack laughs, meeting this transformation with his super full power Harrigan form. This quickly devolves into repeated intense high-speed clashes, with the energy from this fight alone being more than enough to reawaken Majin Buu from his slumber. Bursting from his egg, the Majin's first instructions are to destroy the trio of underworld kingpins, giving Babidi unrivaled dominion, before being unleashed on the fighters down below with permission to wipe them all out if it amuses him. Despite his bravado, at the first sign of Buu, Bojack is smart enough to flee, using his crew as meat shields to cover his escape. This quickly disillusions Zuko to any notions of Bojack being anything more than a coward, and so wanting to right the wrongs of his recent jerkish behavior, he uses the chaos to sneak into Babidi's chambers so he can save Trunks and Goten. This in turn puts him into direct conflict with Demon King Deborah, who is serving as tournament security. And though he cannot beat the Demon King alone, when Trunks and Goten see that Zuko is fighting for them, they encourage him, with Trunks even coaching the other boy to use the Demon's stone spit to turn their college to stone, freeing them. Now all able to fight again, Trunks and Goten combine their powers as Zuko's, managing to erase the Devil Man with a triple Kamehameha before rushing to join the others currently fighting against Majin Buu. Back in the fight, Buu has proven himself insatiable, even turning on his master and leaving him near dead, meaning it is up to the Z-Warriors to save the day. However, due to all this bloodshed, as well as the bit of chaos already stirred from Snake's attendants scouring and accidentally terrorizing the denizens of the heavens, this influx of evil souls causes a stir in hell, as the accident sees a young ogre accidentally becoming host to a well of evil energy, and producing a very similar chaotic monster to the one currently terrorizing the living universe below. Sensing this chaos, which to this creature seems like fun, the newly dubbed Janemba accesses teleporting abilities and soon arrives to make the acquaintance of Majin Buu. Upon seeing the other rotund menace, Buu cannot help but laugh, calling the pudgy yellow monster tubby and funny looking, but Janemba only seems to take joy in this, while everyone else is extremely confused, laughing and dancing so hard that he trips Buu up and causes him to fall, looking funny now himself. Of course, this angers the Majin, with this creating a chaotic clash between the two while the bystanders are forced to back away in order to not be destroyed in this cartoony clash, now all thoroughly confused. Feeling themselves the only sane ones of the group left, Cooler, Shin, and Raditz all share a similar inclination that they should get the hell out of here, no pun intended. But their attempts to leave are quickly halted by the clashing monsters, who evidently want them to stay and witness who will be victorious, and so without a better choice, they decide to rally their remaining troops to ready an attack for the last one standing. As the stakes ramp up, the two even change forms, becoming far more serious and menacing looking fighters, and eventually making it evident that they mean to absorb the other in order to become the supreme force of pure chaos. Thinking this may be what his cursed life has continued on for, Tapion reasons Hirudegarn may actually be able to help here, subsequently relinquishing control over the monster to release it and therefore only make the battle even more chaotic, as Tapion is ultimately beaten back and forced back to his regular self, as Buu and Janemba see no issue in working together surely to get rid of this not fun guy as they call him. Unfortunately, this results in them conglomerating into a completely new force of chaos, who roars his name as Janembu. Thus, when Raditz and the rest unleash their combined attack, it is sadly only enough to destabilize this evil Jin Ogre into a goopy form as he regenerates casually, all hope appearing to be lost here. That is until Princess Snake pulls out an old trick, shifting into her snake form and coiling around Janembu to hold him down as he tries to heal, causing Zuko and Raditz's hearts to freeze in shock, as their wife and mother battles the most dangerous entity in the universe by far for them. As such, they mean to rush to her aid, but Shin and Babidi hold Raditz back, as the wizard reveals a secret weapon to the Big Saiyan and Goku, asking the brothers to join forces one last time. As Zuko reaches his mother and sees Janembu reforming and attacking her, he grows more enraged than he ever has before, seemingly breaking the limit of his monstrous Super Saiyan state and entering a higher grade of it. But he knows even this is not enough. To save his beloved mother, he must embrace even more of himself, and so in a burst of divine light, he achieves his full potential, achieving a godly serpent form of his own, which he is able to entwine around his moms as they form a catechus to trap Janembu, synchronizing their ki to unleash a mother-son corrosive gas blast, which keeps Janembu in a state of perpetually melting, forcing him to use all his energy just to maintain his jelly-like shape. With this opening as a threat to victory, a new warrior makes himself known, the Potara fusion of Goku and Raditz, Raditz, who together waste absolutely no time in sneakily obliterating Buu, wanting no real parts of a fight against something so far beneath him. It is only when Janembu is defeated that Babidi mentions that this fusion is permanent, though no sooner are the words out of his mouth that the brothers split apart, as Raditz yells that he's gonna wring the Spud's neck. In the aftermath of this harrowing clash, our surviving heroes and anti-heroes decide to part ways, with Tapion thanking the group, as he now feels freed of Hirudegarn's influence, and no longer has to worry about Hoi, while Cooler states that he will return one day. day for revenge to what they did to his brother and father before leaving himself. In contrast, Trunks and Zuko decide to put past grudges behind them, becoming friends at last, and subsequently closer to Goten, truly making themselves into a trio. A week later, when the Z-Fighters return to Earth, they find the planet in minor disarray, with Kami and Nail seeming rather exasperated, while Gohan and Turles are obviously exhausted, having come off a big battle of their own. When asked about this, however, Turles is rather tight-lipped out of playful spite, simply jesting that he'd love to tell his best friend of his and Gohan's epic clash with the legendary Super Saiyan. But he's afraid that knowing Raditz, the other Saiyan would simply forget, and so this tale remains one for only those lucky enough to witness his glory firsthand. From here, the years and time will begin to pass quickly, as more and more threats rear their head, such as the arrival of yet another deity bent on destruction, which sees the Saiyans all forced to collect their power together into Goku as their chosen champion, and the return of Cooler, now wielding a powerful golden form that Raditz wielding his own divine powers to match Snake and Zuko's defeats, earning his own revenge against the Cold family, but sparing the other brother, and eventually reforming him, as Goku and Gohan had always talked about. Even Bojack comes back to Earth one day, seeking to re-recruit Zuko, though this is met with a blast to the face, as the boy finally stands up to and defeats the pirate, becoming his own man, at last. Following this is a tournament against the sister universe, and a reunion with Trunks, whose timeline is being played by an enemy who eerily resembles Turles, yet is revealed to be an alternate universe version of Goku, suffering from a case of the body snatchies. After this is yet another tournament, and some battles against evil goat wizards, bounty hunters, and just about every other evildoer one could think of. However, none of which have what it takes to truly shatter this era of peace, and all thanks to our hero son Goku accepting his brother's hand on that fateful day. And this is where we'll end this story and far too long awaited milestone for this channel. I truly hope you've all enjoyed the wild and wacky ride this entire story has been, as well as the time capsule it has been for my timeline as a creator, and one of my finest examples I can point to in support of my #1 piece of advice to those who think about doing YouTube style content creation. Just go ahead and do it. See how much fun you have, and what kind of audience and community you can build. Don't stress out about it so much, and don't try to make it all about numbers. These have been really core lessons for me as a creator, and they kind of shine through in this finale really well, which I'm really proud of. In the end, regardless of the fact that this finale is purposefully bloated and irreverent, overstuffed with too many characters competing for screen time, and rushed to get to its conclusion, I genuinely do hope you enjoyed the journey and had fun. Way back when, I'm certain I had a slightly different and likely more drawn out vision that is more standard and predictable for what this finale and kind of the rest of the story would have been. You know, certain fusions helping out to beat a fairly standard Buu saga, maybe some over the movies thrown here and there, and then adaptations of Super, and then maybe a nice little GT special to boot. But for one thing, I'm getting a bit mad towards certain events of Super, especially now during the superhero adaptation of the manga. Though, fingers are crossed, because at the time of writing, Goten and Trunks have a really big chance to redeem it and make it all worth it by making just a really big divergence from the manga canon interpretation to the movie canon interpretation. So I'm really hoping they jump on that opportunity. Also, I admittedly never scripted this entire story out, so I can't even really go back and see what my original vision was. And once I kind of realized a lot of the flaws of it and began to see how cumbersome it was to write parts, I lost lots of motivation to actually tie it up anytime too soon back then. Nowadays, I still don't really write stories out completely start to finish before actually making them, unless they're collabs, and even then, those are often subject to change when they get really good brainstorm sessions going, so, you know, it's kind of hit or miss. But I do make very basic notes of the broad strokes I know I want within the story. And I at least had some of those for this one. Like, for example, one of the best aspects of this story that I knew I was going to do all the way back in part 1 is setting up a beam clash between an evil or antagonistic Piccolo and Super Saiyan 2 as a twisted version of the Cell games. I also knew that I wanted Raditz's kid to be the main character of the Buu saga, but that's about it. A lot of this was coming as I was doing it. And even then, this was half a decade ago now. Anyway, do the YouTube stuff like I told you in the beginning of the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Scream at me if you think I didn't do the story justice, all that stuff. Before we go, however, I of course owe a few shoutouts to the entire community or Plus Ultra fam for #1 watching this channel for this long. Again, it really does mean a lot. Thank you so much for the views. To Mr. Negative for helping me and providing me with character edits, as well as anybody else who might have had art featured here that might just get featured in the description. To Pickle Dill for helping me convert my notes to a more fleshed out script. And of course, to the supporters of the channel whom you should consider joining for a myriad of perks as well as to help the channel grow. These amazingly generous people are Knuckles OX, Crimson Manifesto, Jelpy, Zach Haji, Pizza15X, Aaron Winters, Normandy 1998, Shao Pai, Coder SV3, Ronin Charizard, Daniel Smith, Dylan Wolfdog 31, Infernate Beast 326, Jay Ray, Johnny, Narku, Omar Cousin, Snow Slash Memes and more, Stephen Norton, Terran, The Shadows, Vegeta What Ifs, Elementor, B, Lyman Rogers, Omar Muhammad, Aiko, Arcane of the Heart, Tay, Inebriated, John Sullivan, Corporal Atkins, Trent Rouse, Dark Shadows, Pokemon Trainer Cam, River Joy, Elijah Edwards, Mr. Hamtastic, Jesus is King, Half an Onion, Angel Gonzalez, David Spalding, Lil T 910, Joseph Lau, Blaze 9526, Trainer Red 164, Luca Reynolds, Baron Stormblade, Ono, Chris Macriano, Lily, Simroth, Red Violet, DeAndre, Gerald Smith, John Self, Jacob Whitker, Massive Oak Woodtree, Demon Set, True Trey, Dutch McGee 101, Bruce Boswick, Robert Arstagard, Illis Cyclops, Craig Shyman, Jal Madden, King Music For Real, Ballcore, Zach Eubanks, Crab Trooper 4552, NBA Fan, Courtney Hawkins, Orion 101, Christian Kyler, Dominic Wiltz, Jester DeMille, Cyber Samurai, The Storybuster, One Cold Pirate, Ganning 667, Dr. Ember, Chris, Kieran Lightfoot, Ooga Booga, and Cure Skywalker. Once again, thank you guys for everything you do and directly supporting the channel and helping it grow. But that said, that's all I got for you today. So as always, take care of yourselves and the world around you. Happy 5-year anniversary, and go beyond plus ultra. And I'll see you guys next time.